I'm going to show you my 5 favorite techniques for networking with other musicians in your area. This has been a highly requested video, especially after I posted that video of deadmau5 talking about how he met Skrillex, how Skrillex kind of networked with him, became friends with him, gave him a demo, etc., etc. And one thing deadmau5 said is he's like, look, it wasn't just a random promo email or whatever. It was meeting somebody in person, and that's what really helped propel Skrillex to get connected with deadmau5 and, of course, become Skrillex. So in this video, I'm really going to talk about all these different techniques I've personally used, and I want to say that in this video, I will be talking a lot about DJing and EDM and electronic music, but these techniques work for any genre. Number 1, location-based production companies. Now, ironically, I'm not talking about music production companies, I'm talking about event production companies. These are massive because these are the companies that throw the events in your area that are very, like I said, 1, location specific, but 2, typically smaller and more intimate. And this is the best place to go to. These shows, these events, whatever you're having, these are the best things to go to really meet all the kind of people you want to meet. So for example, when I moved to LA, I didn't know anyone, I didn't really know anything, I'm just completely winging it. The first thing I did was literally just Google, events in LA, EDM companies in LA, EDM event companies in LA. And the 2 biggest that I found over and over again were Space Yacht and Brownies and Lemonade. Now, what's interesting is since I moved to LA, they're now expanding a lot. I mean, Space Yacht's doing events in Miami, San Francisco, and Vegas. Same thing with Brownies and Lemonade. But I remember when I first moved here, those are the 2 that in LA, you're like, okay, you got to go to their shows. They throw like the big intimate style parties, the big intimate style raves. And these are the best places to get connected with all the right people who are really kind of in the underground, so to speak, in the LA EDM scene. If, let's say, you're a hip hop artist, maybe do the same thing. Now, yes, when it comes to different event production companies, there are some that are big. Insomniac is a great example of this. Arguably the most, I guess you could say, the biggest event production company when it comes to EDM. They run like EDC, especially EDC Las Vegas, Beyond Wonderland. The list goes on and on and on. But I think the thing with Insomniac is it's almost too big. I mean, EDC Las Vegas has hundreds of thousands of people. So it does get super tricky, especially if you're looking to network. And this is why I suggest looking at all the different location-based in your given area, whether in Chicago, Vegas, LA, Miami, Boston, whatever. Find those event production companies. That's the first thing, of course. You got to find them. The second thing, and this is my best suggestion, follow them on Instagram. This is where you really see all the different events going on, all the different stuff happening, for lack of a better word. And that's where you can really start following every single thing they're doing, because I promise you, those are the events you want to go to. Yes, of course, going to, let's say, an EDM, going to the nightclubs or the shows going on. Yes, those are great places to meet people, but you want to go to the right shows. Of course, going to all of them is, I think, not a bad approach. But by going to the shows with these event companies, especially the ones that are location-based, you're going to meet all the people in the underground who really know what's going on. Number 2, go to events with intent. And some of these techniques are very specific, like, again, contacting, these production companies. Other ones are more of like general guidelines, right? So I'm kind of giving you a blend of everything. But this is a big one. I think it's like, okay, even if you're finding the best, most underground secret events to go to, which are the best places to network, the truth is, if you're just going casually, I think that's not the best approach. Now, I'm not talking about, like, say, dressing up in a full-on suit, being super professional, but I have seen this a lot where people, like, say, go to these events, they get too drunk, they get too high, they're too messed up or whatever. That's not the best approach, as you can imagine. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with going to events and wanting to have a good time. I mean, I remember when, I first moved to LA, I'd be going to these nightclubs or these events that I kind of found and got invited to, and I met the right people. I mean, like, oh, I'm going to go and have a fun time. But there were a couple times where I woke up the next morning, I'm like, okay, I had a great night, but did I make any new connections? Did I get any numbers? Did I get any business cards? Did I get any emails, et cetera, et cetera? And so I think a good approach, especially if you're looking to network, build your kind of connection database, so to speak, is to go to these events with intent. Again, that doesn't mean, that you can't enjoy yourself or have a few drinks or however you want to enjoy yourself. But it does mean that you should go with the mindset of like, okay, I'm going to try to leave this event with one Instagram of another DJ in this area. or I'm going to try to leave this event with maybe some type of contact information. And the truth is, and this is a big thing, you never know with these events, of course, one, who you're going to meet. You never know. I've bumped into major artists at different events that I never expected to bump into. So you truly never know. And the second thing is, you also truly never know who's a good connection to have. And that's why going to these events with intent is important. I remember one time I was at a very high-end nightclub here in LA and was just being friendly with everybody, because again, you never know. End up getting connected with the bar back of the table I was on. Turns out the bar back has all the most intimate connections with all the other nightclubs in LA. Got his number, and then that was a great connection to have a lot of times when I went out to hit him up and stuff like that, right? So you never know, even if it's like, say, a bouncer, a coworker, these are the people that at first you're like, well, I'm trying to network with DJs. I want to meet other musicians. Why would I get a bouncer's contact information? But the truth is, you never know. They might have some connections or be bouncing at or covering the door at a different event they can get you into. They may be bouncing at a private party, and you'd be surprised, especially here in LA, they actually do hire security for these, like, secret underground after parties, especially in like the Hollywood Hills or whatever. They'll sometimes hire bouncers. And if you know one of them and they can get you in, those are great places to network. So go to these events, whether it's a rave, a concert, even just a regular networking event, whatever. Go to these events with intent. Number 3, house parties. This is a tricky one because it's kind of like the chicken before the egg situation, where on one end, I think house parties are actually the best places to network. I'm talking about not just house parties, after parties, whatever. Basically a party at someone's house, for lack of a better phrase, right? The tricky thing though, is you also have to get invited. So it's kind of like this chicken before the egg thing where they're the best place to network, but in order to network to go there, you have to meet the right people to network to get invited, right? But if you're doing everything I'm talking about, like I said, going and contacting and finding all the best production companies when it comes to throwing the intimate events, if you're going there with intent, you're starting to get contact information, eventually at some point, you'll be invited to after parties and house parties. These typically start at 2, maybe 3 a.m. and go till whenever, right? I mean, it depends on what area of the country you're on. I've heard of some after parties going over 24 hours in Miami, sometimes even longer. I've heard of some after parties, I think typically usually end sometimes around sunrise, but I know some that go from like 3 a.m. to like 7 or 8 a.m. and even longer, right? It really does depend, but these are actually, in my opinion, the best places to network, period. One, if you go to like, say, a concert, it is kind of tricky because people are going there to look at the DJ and to have fun, listen to the music, right? So if you're trying to network, it is kind of tricky, which, by the way, is a side pro tip. I might as well say this when it comes to going to events. Usually like the smoking area, so to speak, like the area outside where people are chilling and smoking, I find is the best places to meet people because they're relaxing. Obviously the music isn't super loud. So that is the best place when it comes to events. When it comes to house parties, people are not focused on one thing, right? They're kind of just like standing around, maybe having some drinks, doing whatever. So when it comes to house parties, these I think are the best place to network and meet the right type of people. The hard part is though, as you can imagine, one is getting invited, right? Usually they're a lot more intimate. It's not like typically you can buy a ticket. You kind of have to get like the address or something. And 2, of course, be responsible, right? Things go pretty crazy and get pretty crazy at after parties and house parties. But like I said, if you meet the right type of people there, I mean, I've networked and met people at the house party who owned that mansion in the Hollywood Hills. And as you can imagine, having a connection like that, even if they don't do EDM, even if they're like, oh, I just do stuff in finance or whatever, they probably know all the DJs in the area, especially if they're throwing the party. So those are great events to really get connected with if you can. When it comes to all the after parties, the house parties, there are even some after party events and venues. So for example, in Austin, Texas, I think the most notable after hours venue is called The Cut. The Cut is a great place to go because I promise you, anyone going to an after party is typically someone you really, really want to network with. I mean, you're going to find 2 types of people, ironically. One is someone who's just super messed up and they're like, I just want to party, do drugs, do whatever. The other type of person though is just very well connected, especially in that scene. And so I think you'll get a pretty good grasp of what type of person you're kind of talking to. But like say The Cut in Austin, Texas, like say here in LA, I think like Swanky's is another big one, or I think Tech Me Out is another big one, but each city also has kind of after party specific locations where you can buy a ticket and go to. And these are other events you can kind of network with and everything. I'm telling you, these type of parties, the best for meeting the right type of people. Number 4, online groups. These are very underrated. I'm talking about Facebook groups, Discords, even Twitter groups, even some random ones you might find online. Honestly, I would just Google like Los Angeles DJ group or Miami DJ group. Go on Facebook and find these. And even too, there's a lot of different Facebook groups. For example, I think Facebook groups, in my opinion, are some of the best that have like a group just for DJs or a group just for people into electronic music production or whatever. And what you can do is go into these groups being like, hey guys, I just moved to Chicago. Does anyone have any suggestions of the best places to go? This is a big way for me when I moved to LA that I was part of some of these groups and I just kind of put in like, hey, I just moved to LA. I don't know if anyone here's even from LA or anything, but do you know of any events going on or whatever? And I remember people would come and be like, oh, I'm not there, but my friend lives there. Here's an event he's going to, or here's his contact information. You should DM him on Facebook or whatever. And these are great online groups that are super easy, I think, to get connected with people super, super fast as well. I know for a lot of people, and it's understandable, like say if you do go to like a nightclub or an event, just to walk up to someone random kind of feels awkward. Like if anything, and I'll be honest, for me, I think it's easier, if anything, I mean, everyone's different, to like approach a girl, so to speak, than to approach a guy and be like, hey, can I get your email? I'm trying to network with other DJs, right? It's kind of like, I think, more awkward sometimes, if anything. And so I think when it comes to a lot of these different online groups, it's very easy to just like send a quick message, be like, hey, I'm just trying to meet other DJs in the area. I just moved here. I think that's a really good approach as well. Like, hey, I just moved to Austin. I just moved to LA. I just moved to Boston. I don't know if you have any suggestions about people I should talk to or meet. I'm just trying to meet everybody I can. And this is a really good approach to have, especially in these online groups. I think people can quickly see like your profile and stuff like that. It does make it a little bit faster. And honestly, like I said, if like say you're like, I don't know any online groups about Chicago DJs, just Google it or go on Facebook and type in Chicago DJs or Chicago producers. Join all these groups, message people or, kind of post being like, hey, I just moved here looking for the events. And these are a great way to find all the spots in addition to meeting the right type of people. Number 5, DJ cards. This is a very underrated one. That's a good way to kind of start at like the bottom level. Like say with all this, you're like, Mark, I just don't even know where to begin. Like I'm trying to find these online groups. I'm trying to find these event production companies. I feel like I'm just not getting anywhere. This one seems very like bottom level at first, but it's a good way to kind of create a good stepping stone. And that is any single time you go to an event, right? Start going to bars, to clubs. I'm talking about, of course, when it comes to the EDM scene, as you can imagine, usually, even at your typical local college bar, there's a DJ. And one thing you can do, of course, you want to do it at the right time, as we all know. Let's say someone's DJing, especially let's say at a local bar, walk up, say, hey, I know you're DJing. I want to say, hey, I love your mixing. I love your set so far. Do you have a card? Most of the time the people DJing will be like, oh yeah, here's my card. If they don't, ask for their Instagram. I think Instagram's the best kind of like networking approach because of course you can DM them, you can contact them. But 2, it's very it's less invasive than a number or even an email or whatever. And like say you do get their business card, you get their Instagram, message them the next day being like, hey, I'm so-and-so. I met you at this bar last night. You had a great set. I love what you're doing. I just moved here, I'm trying to meet as many people as possible. Do you DJ anywhere else? Or are there any other places you should suggest for me to check out? Now, sometimes, if let's say they're DJing at a college bar, for example, that's maybe all they're doing. Maybe they just do it on the weekends. They're just taking DJing casually, but you never know. This is a way I actually met an agent when I was DJing in Boston who got me all these different gigs. And I was like, wow, now I'm actually... I have an agent who's booking me all these gigs all around Boston. And yeah, a lot of them were like college bars and stuff like that, which weren't bad. But like now I'm DJing and getting paid to DJ over and over again. And as you can imagine, once you start DJing, even like college like bars, these are great places to network and start moving your way up. I got invited to do after parties and stuff like that from DJing at these venues. And so this is a good way to kind of start as like the most basic level because all you have to do, especially because someone's DJing, you don't have to worry about having this amazing conversation, which I know can sometimes be nerve-wracking. You don't have to worry about saying the right thing or like, having to continue that conversation and be like, oh shoot, what do I say now? It's kind of awkward. You just walk up and say, hey, I love your set. I know you're DJing right now, so I'll leave you alone. But do you have a card on you? Do you have an Instagram so I can contact you later? And this is a good way to start meeting as many people as you can, and you never know. Maybe someone's like, hey, I'm in the same position as you. I moved here a few months ago. I'm DJing here now, but I'm trying to meet other people. Let's really connect and hang out. And now a bonus tip, and that is dating apps. This is a super underrated one, I'm gonna be honest, that I use dating apps a lot when traveling, and not just to hook up or whatever, but honestly to meet other people and get invited to the right type of venues. I remember when I first toured the country for DJing, this is in 2014, my main tool for networking and meeting people was actually Tinder. I'm not even making this up. I'd go on Tinder and I'd message girls being like, hey, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not looking for anything serious right now, I gotta be honest. I'm just looking to meet people in the area. I just wanna go to the spots that only the locals know about. That's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm not looking to hook up or whatever. I just want to meet people, become friends, check out some cool spots. And what's awesome is I met a lot of girls who were like, hey, I'm going to this party. If you want to meet up, we can go there. And then I become friends with them, and then become friends with their guy friends, and then kind of become friends with that group. We'd go out, and this was a great way to meet so many amazing people and get brought to the spots, like I said, that quote unquote only the locals know about. And especially here in LA or Chicago or Miami or Boston, this is true for, I guess, pretty much almost any dating app though, that when you go on these dating apps, there's like a profile, right? And they say, oh, like I'm into music, I'm into reading, I'm into hiking, whatever it is. And especially for EDM, it's very quick to be like, oh, rave bay, or going to EDC, or huge into EDM, I'm a bass head, I'm a house head, I'm a techno snob, whatever, right? So they'll have something in their profile, and especially, being into EDM for a while, I can tell in 2 seconds if they're into electronic music, and I'll make sure to match with all the girls that are really into EDM, and I'll message them being like, hey, I just moved here. I'm trying to find all the best EDM spots. I'm huge into house music. I'm huge into bass music. I'm huge into whatever genre you're into. Do you have any suggestions of things to check out? And I've done that a lot, and I've actually met girls be like, oh, I'm actually going to the show. And a lot of my quote unquote first dates when I moved to LA here, actually me meeting girls in the EDM scene, and being brought to all these different venues. It was like the best way to go. Now, of course, it does depend, let's say a girl or a guy or whatever, but I think this is not a bad approach, because if you, let's say you message somebody on a dating app, even if, let's say you're not looking to hook up or do anything, just say, hey, I just moved here. I'm looking to meet new people. I'm actually more looking for friends, if anything. In addition, I'm looking to network and meet all the right type of people. Do you have any suggestions?